Sup guys, Beersy here, and today we're going to look at a Final Fantasy game that was never released in the West, and which is the basis of the remastered version, which has been dubbed the Zodiac Age, which will be released in July, so at the time of the recording of this video, it's not too far away now. So, to quickly explain, Square Enix, and even back in the Squaresoft days, they used to re-release their games in Japan as the so-called international version, which was basically the US version with all of that version's gameplay tweaks, such as 7, Dirge of Cerberus, 10, and 10-2. What we will be looking at today is the so-called international version that never made its way out of Japan, called Final Fantasy XII, International Zodiac Job System. Final Fantasy XII was released on March 16th, 2006 in Japan, October 31st, 2006 in the US, February the 22nd in Australia, and February the 23rd in Europe. It was one of the games that focused on the fictional world of Ivalice, created by Yasumi Matsuno, and has appeared in other games such as Final Fantasy Tactics, Tactics Advance and Advance 2, and Vagrant Story. In 12, you assume the role of Vaan, an orphan teenager with lofty dreams of becoming a sky pirate. Along the way, you meet Penelo, Vaan's childhood friend, Balthier, a sky pirate and dashing rogue, Fran, a beautiful and deadly Viera, Bosch von Ronsenberg, a former knight of Dalmasca, and Ashelia Bernargan Dalmasca, or simply Ash, a warrior princess trying to overthrow the corrupt Arcadian rule.
Who would be next?
Together they all embark on a journey to overthrow the despotic Arcadian Empire and the equally corrupt Thane Solidor.
Anyway, enough about the original game. If you haven't played it, go play it now. It was well received by critics, being one of the very few games having been given a perfect score by Famitsu of all publications. It's a little polarizing by fans, especially when 13 came afterward, but I definitely enjoyed it, and it was innovating enough to keep me interested. So, what exactly was changed? What was added? Let's delve deep into the game and let's find out. I'll be playing the English patched version of International Zodiac Job System here to make things a tad easier to explain. International Zodiac Job System was released on August 9th, 2007, roughly 1.5 years after 12's release. Everything core to the game, for example the story and general plot of the game, remain the same. The bulk of the changes come in the form of gameplay mechanics and styles of gameplay. I won't go into too much detail on what was changed. The Final Fantasy Wikia is a great source for all the changes between the two versions, but I'll be covering some of the major changes that will be the basis for the Zodiac Age. Whereas in 12, you have one large license board that can make all of your characters virtual Ubermensches via shit tons of grinding. Yes, this game is grind heavy. The licenses have been split off into 12 new job type boards, to reflect the 12 different signs of the Zodiac, which is a common theme in the Ivalice universe. Each job board has different fighting styles that each character can utilize through the game, but only one job can be chosen by each playable character. Each job has certain proficiencies in weapons, armor, magics, and techniques, and they differ from job to job. This is a reference to Final Fantasy's well-renowned job system, which has been a part of many Final Fantasy games since its inception in Final Fantasy I and its subsequent evolution in 3 and 5. Starting with Ares, symbolized by the White Mage job, focuses on using white magics, rods, and mystic armor. Taurus, which is symbolized by the Ulan, which is essentially the Dragoon job, focuses on using spears and heavy armor. Gemini symbolizes the Machinist job and focuses on using guns, measures, and light armor. Cancer, symbolized by the Red Mage job, focuses on maces, a mix of black, white, time, and arcane magics and shields. Leo, symbolized by the Knight job, focuses on swords, greatswords, heavy armor, and shields. Virgo, symbolized by the Monk job, focuses on poles and light armor, and the only class that can be used barehanded. Libra, symbolized by the Time Mage job, focuses on time magics, crossbows, and heavy armor. Scorpio, which is symbolized here by the foe breaker job, or shown here simply just as breaker, focuses on axes, hammers, heavy armor, and shields, and uses all 4 of the break techniques: wither, expose, shear, and addle. Sagittarius, symbolized by the archer job, focuses on bows and light armor. Capricorn, symbolized by the black mage job, focuses on black magics, staves, and mystic armor. Aquarius, which is symbolized by the samurai job, or also called bushi as in Bushido or the way of the samurai, called mononofu in the Japanese version, focuses on katanas and mystic armor. And finally, Pisces, symbolized by the hunter job, known as shikari, or what is essentially the ninja job, focuses on daggers, ninja swords, light armor, and shields. Each job enables each character to use different playstyles that differ to each character's intended roles in the original game. This enables for replayability, as you can spec your team however you wish, and adds some strategy into the combat mechanics. Speaking of combat mechanics, let's talk about some of the things that were changed in combat. Every attack now breaks the 9,999 damage cap. The gambit system was reworked a little, some have been renamed, and 16 new gambits are available. They can no longer be obtained from treasure chests. The MP system was reworked as well. Gaining quickenings now no longer double or triple a character's max MP, and using quickenings or summoning espers no longer drain a character's MP. But replenishing MP now also replenishes mischarges, same as the original.
Also, the user interface for the battlefield has changed, especially the menus. I personally like the old look, but this look suits the game better.
The Esper mechanics were also reworked, changing certain things such as extending the summoning time from 1 minute 30 seconds to 4 minutes and 10 seconds, a substantial increase in summoning time. Also, you can now control them as well. If you've always wanted to freeze everyone as Mateus, or basically control the god of gods as Zodiac, now you can fulfill those gaming fantasies. Adjustments were made to their stats, and now they have their own set MP to use magics. Some new items were added, such as the meteorites, which cause damage, the bravery-inducing Spirit of Lowtown, or the super rare but extremely game-breaking Baltoro Seed, which grants every single buff to a character. New weapons were also added, but because of the hack of the US version, these in-game models do not exist. Party guests such as Amalia, Larsa, and Redis will now accrue experience points and use items from your inventory. You can now also control them by making them the party leader on the battlefield. Some spells will reclassified, for example Protect and Shell, and their party-wide equivalents, once under the green magic category, now reside under white magic. And one of the biggest changes, one of the useful in my opinion, is that if you press L1 while you are mid-game, it enables Turbo! And now, grinding through areas for loot and EXP just becomes so much easier and less time consuming. Look, don't get me wrong, level grinding and money grinding are essential for the RPG experience, but when you just don't have enough time to spend going through the same areas over and over again, this is definitely a welcome addition. One of the minor caveats of using this function, however, is that it makes everything extremely harder to control. Movement and camera control gets very twitchy here, and it does not help if you're traversing the mountainous Mosforan high wastes, or the twisting caverns of the Hene mines, or the Great Crystal at Girovegan. Some of the more notable but minor changes include the option for widescreen, which was not in the original release, but was included in the US, European, and Australian releases. The job title, appearing next to your total amount of license points. The addition of 753 more chests. Whew, bringing the grand total for chests up to 1,676. And the addition of one thing that is sometimes sorely needed from some games. Well, not one, but 2 New Game Plus modes if you didn't have enough fun the first time around. Strong mode becomes available after you complete the game normally, and this allows you to start the game at level 90. Essentially, this makes a game a cakewalk and is usually used if you just want to experience the story again. Week mode becomes available after you complete trial mode, and sets all of the characters' levels to level 1, and you can no longer gain EXP. You can still gain license points though. This is for the players who desire a greater challenge from the game. This mode requires more strategy when it comes to normal fights and boss battles. Whoa, back up for a minute. Trial mode? Those of you who haven't played this version probably won't know what trial mode is. Trial mode is essentially a battle mode which tests your character's strength. You can load in your characters at any point in the story and test their mettle in 100 battles of increasing difficulty. Every 10 battles you can save your progress and you receive a reward to use in game. You can't buy any items in this mode, and if you save over the save you used to start this mode, it's gone forever. If you're looking for a challenge, you can even play through this mode with Rex. Each level pits you against various monsters, and once in a while, you'll face bosses and espers. Some levels also have certain conditions, just like some of the battles in game, such as the hindrance of not being able to use items, magic, techniques, heavy armor restrictions, and etc. Levels 90 through 100 are undisputably the hardest. 97 through 100 will have you facing off with some of the strongest super bosses in the game, namely Zodiac, Yasmat, Omega Mark 12,
and the most insane battle I've ever encountered, except for Gilgamesh.
Fucking Gilgamesh! He's one of my most favourite characters in the series, but damn, this battle was hard. It took me ages to get past this one. Anyway, you will already have faced Judge Gabranth, Judge Geese, and Judge Bergen in the story. But this battle adds 2 new judges from the story that you could not fight before. Judge Drace and Judge Sargabath. Even getting to this point seems trivial compared to most of the battles you've faced so far. So, when you have bested the troublesome quintet of overpowered judges, you'll unlock the aforementioned Week mode for your next playthrough. Trial mode is a test of might, Week mode is a test of strategy and cunning. Completing this game on both modes is essential for completion. We know most if not all of these improvements will make it to the Zodiac Age, so let me know in the comments below if you played this and what was your favourite edition. It may be a while again before I make another video, so drop this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more gaming related videos. They won't be in the same vein as this one, but this was something for me to try out and expand my skills a little bit. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Busy out!
What's up guys, Beersy here. Now, it's been a couple of weeks since Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age released, and for the most part, everyone seems to enjoy the new HD remaster. Now, I recently made a video on its predecessor, International Zodiac Job System, which I'll have up here, so you can see what the Zodiac Age was before it was a HD remaster. And now I've had some time to sit down and relish in its glory once more. I also found that there have been more improvements made to the Zodiac Age. Today I'll be taking a look at what was added in Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age. Let's get the obvious visual stuff out of the way. Most of the in-game textures, fonts, and character models are now higher resolution compared to the original release. The CG cutscenes have had a bit of a facelift as well, and have now been upscaled. They look super crisp. Sadly, the awesome intro cutscene no longer exists. Aww. When you boot up the game, you'll be sent straight to the title menu. Some of the lighting effects in the lower light areas, such as Rabanasta Lowtown and the Barheim Passage, have now been changed to look more realistic. The audio has now been reworked to feature 7.1 surround sound. And we now have a brand new reorchestrated soundtrack, courtesy of original composer Hitoshi Sakamoto, and the soundtrack from the original game. Those of us who bought the beautiful Steelbook edition, with the awesome art from character designer Akihiko Yoshida, look at it, it's just so damn beautiful. And those of you lucky enough to get the collector's edition, can obtain the original background music DLC, which is basically the updated CD version of the original soundtrack. All 3 soundtracks can be changed on the fly seamlessly. You now have the ability to change the voiceover audio between Japanese and English. I recommend the Japanese audio if you haven't heard it yet, or for the awesome Akurian voice effects, which were sadly lost on the English audio.
君の願いは別の人間に託してくれ。
とうに叶えられた。眉は砕け、浜関の歴史は終わった。世界はもはや不滅なるものを必要とはしない。君の歩みを見届ける。共に行こう。
Sadly, if there's one thing that I criticize, is that the original voiceover sounds a little better, but it wasn't cleaned up like I hoped it would be. Here, have a listen, and let me know in the comments what you think about this.
What? Hey, that's mine.
What do you mean, yours? You've been stealing again. What happens if they catch you? We need you to be there for us, Vaughn. You're no good to anyone if you're locked away in a dungeon.
Oh, what? Am I the leader now?
One of the more polarizing features of the Zodiac Age, in my opinion, is the autosave function. Now, I'm 50-50 on this one. I'm more used to the old-style save point, but Square Enix must have known about the random disk ejection fault on most PS4 systems. God, I hate that fucking thing. Or it might just be a coincidence. But this just helps in the long run, as it auto-saves on every area change. It does not affect gameplay at all, but it allows you to pick up from where you exactly left off whenever you please. Only downside is, you can't turn this off. Now, another feature I covered in my IZJS comparison video was the addition of Turbo Mode! This makes a reappearance in the Zodiac Age, but now there's 2 modes of Turbo. There is now Turbo Mode! And Super Turbo Mode! This is essentially a ×2 and ×4 turbo mode to make things easier for grinding. But I'm going to preface this with a warning here, and say that even though it may be tempting to use this all the time, don't. Trust me, admire the changes around you, unless you let time slip you by and you'll miss all that is utterly beautiful about this HD remaster. For those of you who have played it before, 2 times turbo would be best, but if you're playing this for the millionth time and only want to experience the story, ×4 is fine. One of the most useful features in the Zodiac Age is when you press L3, an overlay map will appear. This is great when you're utterly lost, and it helps you to plot your next course. This also helps for certain areas in the game, such as the lower half of the Feywood, or the forest at Ridorana, where the minimap is utterly useless. Unfortunately, however, don't expect this to work in the Great Crystal. You'll only get an image of the great big hunk of junk. The trial mode comes back for a second round here, testing your character's mettle. Check out my previous video for what the trial mode is if you haven't played the Zodiac Age yet. In IZJS, if you override a main game save whilst in trial mode, you will lose your progress in the main game. In the Zodiac Age, however, you can come back to the main game via a trial mode save. If you overwrite the main game save, however, you will lose your progress in trial mode. The bestiary, which used to have large pictures of each of the enemies and bosses you face, have now been changed for full-scale in-game models. The Sky Pirate's Den has been abolished in favour of the trophy system. I miss the Sky Pirate's Den. You can now change the X and Y axes if you're into using a different camera control layout. And finally, I've saved the best one for last. In IZJS, instead of a full license board, you had the ability to choose a job-specific board with differing abilities and proficiencies. I have a more in-depth look into these in my IZJS video. Now in Zodiac Age, when you defeat Belius at the Tomb of Wraithwall, you unlock a new node on your current job board right next to Belius's node. Unlocking this node allows you to choose a second job for that character. You can choose a job that complements or contrasts your character and rounds out your main team. This is definitely useful for main parties that don't initially have attacks that exploit certain weaknesses, who don't have a dedicated black or white mage, or just allow your team to be ready for any confrontation. So, that's all of Zodiac Age's improvements. Let me know in the comments, what was your favourite edition? Did you enjoy the original? Or do you love Zodiac Age? Or maybe you prefer International Zodiac job system? Either way, this is still a great mainline Final Fantasy game, which has been cemented by the Zodiac Age. So, standard protocol here guys, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for future content, and maybe throw me a comment or two. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I would also like to give a huge thank you to the over 1,000 people who watched my International Zodiac job system review. Over 1,000 views doesn't really seem like much, but to me it means a whole damn lot, really. Thank you very, very much, and I hope to have a new video soon. Peace out!
For some of us, Final Fantasy X was an awesome spectacle, it being the first Final Fantasy game released on the PlayStation 2. Making the jump from PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2 was absolutely huge, with most of us reminded of the way Final Fantasy IX looked only a year before its release. However, not everyone in the world experienced Final Fantasy X in the same way. When it was released in Europe and Australia, it came with more features than the standard Japanese and US releases. All of these extra features would not be introduced to the US market until Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD Remaster. Why did the European and Australian versions have more features? Well, Squaresoft decided to continue their long-standing history of creating international releases by releasing Final Fantasy X International in Japan. Sup guys, it's Beersy, and today on Level Up, I'll be taking a look at Final Fantasy X International. Final Fantasy X was released on July 19th, 2001 in Japan, September 17th, 2001 in the US, May 17th, 2002 in Australia, and May 24th, 2002 in Europe. With it being the 10th mainline entry of the series, it was the first to be released on the PlayStation 2. It was developed alongside Final Fantasies 9 and 11, and it was the first game to have fully voiced cutscenes.
Want to scream?
I really don't think that's gonna help this time.
And it was the first game in the series to receive a sequel, of which I made a video on. You can check it out here. you assume the role of Tidus, a blitzball ace hailing from the Machina city of Zanarkand, whose world is turned upside down when a being called Sin destroys his city and sends him 1,000 years into the future. After being saved by a group of Al-Bhed, including a girl named Riku,
Thought I was done for back there.
Tidus is washed away to Besaid Island, whom he meets Waka, the captain of the Besaid Aurochs. Lulu, a feisty black mage.
Excuses again?
Kamari, a warrior Ronso. And Yuna, a fledgling summoner just beginning her pilgrimage across Spira, a land shrouded in death and in fear of Sid.
Have become a summoner.
Along the way, Auron, a mysterious swordsman, joins the team along with Riku, and as Yuna's guardians, they all do their best to guide her through her pilgrimage to eventually face Sin and defeat him, to bring about a peaceful period in Spira called the Calm. This game was hugely successful on the PlayStation 2, with it being one of the most popular JRPGs of all time. This was a major departure from other Final Fantasies, as there is no longer a world map to traverse, as all of Spira's areas are interconnected to create an almost seamless journey. The battle system differs as well, adopting a new battle system called the Conditional Turn-Based Battle System. This makes the combat more tactical and calculated, and can help you strategize and perfect your next move in battle, rather than the active time battle system which most older Final Fantasy games utilize. Now, let's get to the international version of Final Fantasy X.
Well, let's go.
Final Fantasy X International was released in Japan on January 31st, 2002, and has quite a number of differences from its original release. This version was also released in Australia and Europe, but the US did not see this version until March 18th, 2014, when the HD remaster was released. This is due to the fact that these changes were implemented before the release in Australia and Europe, so that's why we got this version instead. So let's take a look at Final Fantasy X International and see what was changed. I'll be playing the Japanese version here to show the changes firsthand, rather than playing the Australian version.
Listen to my story. This may be our last chance.
You're probably thinking, wait a minute. He said he was playing the Japanese version. Well, I am. All of the voiceovers are in English. You can also choose between Japanese and English text in the menu after you choose your sphere grid, of which there are now 2 variations. With the standard sphere grid, each character has a defined path which contains their specific abilities, magic, and stat boosts, and it slightly differs from the original Japanese sphere grid. With the Expert Sphere Grid, however, all characters start in the middle and can branch out into different roles as the game progresses, with branching paths that can dynamically change a character's growth. This grid also has 50 less nodes than the standard grid. There are 6 new abilities in this version, 4 of them granting the ability to extract spheres from enemies, including Power, Mana, Ability, and Speed spheres to speed up the unlocking of nodes. Full Break, which combines power, mental, armor, and magic breaks into one attack, and Nab Gil, which allows a character to steal gil from an enemy while stealing damage, same as Mug. 2 new special abilities were also added: Pill for Gil, which allows you to steal gil from an enemy, and Quick Pockets, which allows you to use an item whilst making your next turn come around quicker. There are also 4 new weapon abilities and 1 new armor ability. Alongside the extract abilities, the distill abilities can now be applied to weapons to obtain more spheres from enemies. And the armor ability Ribbon gives complete status immunity to a character, with exception to delay and instant death. Final Fantasy X International introduces 9 new super bosses to fight. The Dark Aeons. In the Japanese text, they are called the Heretic Aeons. They are extremely hard, with high HP and attack power, with Dark Anima being one of the strongest with 8 million HP. One of the biggest issues with the Dark Aeons, however, is they basically block off once friendly areas of the game. Dark Valifor can be found when you return to the village of Besaid Island. Dark Ifrit can be found after obtaining the airship Fahrenheit and flying to Bikanel Island, and talking to an Albed woman who is secretly a Yevonite summoner in disguise. I'll diverge a little here, as this boss relates to a major glitch in the game referred to the New Game Plus glitch, which allows you to re-experience the story again after the fall of the Albed home. Dark Ixion can be found by talking to a warrior monk in the Thunder Plains, and is unlocked after you reach the Calmlands. He can be fought twice. Dark Shiva can be found after you return to Makalania Temple. Dark Bahamut can be found after returning to the Zanakin Dome after obtaining the airship. Dark Anima can be fought after viewing the campfire scene at the Zanakin ruins, and by making your way back to Mount Gargazet and completing Wakka's trial for a second time. She is found at the entrance of Mount Gargazet. Dark Yojimbo is easily found by making your way back to the Cavern of the Stolen Faith. Make your way to the back of the cavern and then try to leave. You will be blocked by Dark Yojimbo 5 times as you make your way back to the entrance. The Dark Magus Sisters can be faced after returning to Mushroom Rock Road, and they can either be faced either together or separately. Defeating all of the Dark Aeons will unlock the hardest super boss of the game, Penance. Accessible from the airship menu and having an awesome cutscene in which it rises from the chasm of the Calmlands, Penance has 12 million HP for its body and 500,000 HP for both of its arms. Speaking of super bosses, Omega Weapon's HP was changed from 99,999 HP to 999,999 HP. And it now absorbs all elements and is now weak to Osmos. There are also some minor tweaks to the battle system and damage calculations in Final Fantasy X International. The ability Quick Hit now has its recovery speed lowered by 1. Auron's Limit Break Tornado was changed to hit twice, and his ultimate weapon Masamune's damage calculations were changed from its original calculations in which it dealt double damage based on his remaining HP. Anima's Overdrive Oblivion now hits 16 times instead of once. The Magus Sisters Overdrive Delta attack now hits 6 times instead of once. Yojimbo's attack formula was slightly altered, making the probability of activating his Overdrive Zanmato higher than normal. And finally, Wakka's Overdrive receives a damage boost depending on how much time is left when the slot's complete. One of the more notable additions to Final Fantasy X International comes in the form of a small epilogue called The Eternal Calm, which serves as the prologue for Final Fantasy X-2. This was included on an extra disc which also contained developer reviews. This prologue basically explains Yuna's motivations for Final Fantasy X-2, and is well worth a watch if you'd like to see what happens after the events of 10. This was included in the HD remaster with updated graphics and a full English voiceover.
It's been 2 years. I've learned how to hold my breath for more than 2 minutes now. It takes more than physical strength, and there are some tricks you can't be taught. It took practice, lots and lots of practice. I just had to keep trying until I figured it out for myself. And you know what? Back then, I didn't think there were any tricks to it at all. I didn't have time to think. An eternal calm. A slightly chubby Waka. And my 2 minutes 41 seconds.
So, there you have it. Those were most of the changes in Final Fantasy X International. All of those changes made their way into the HD remaster, so I'd recommend you play that version instead. The only thing I wish this version had was the original Japanese voiceovers. It's always nice to experience the game differently in this way, and it just gives the game more replayability in my opinion. Well, shit, it's been a while since I've last made a long-form video, I apologize for that. I don't know when the next one will be, but it'll come soon, I promise. This was an old script that I'd written around the time of the, I believe, Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age review, and I intended to make that many, many years ago, but unfortunately I never got around to it. So I made some tweaks, did some editing and all that sort of stuff, and here we are. My first long-form video in probably, God, how long has it been since my last one? Holy Jesus. Wow, 2017 was when I made the Zodiac Age video, so it's been a few years. It's been a long while, so I apologize for the long wait between videos. I'm trying my best to make some more when I've got some spare time, obviously. But yeah, I don't know when the next one will be. So I guess you know what to do. Subscribe, hit that bell, yada yada. You can find me on Twitch under twitch.tv/Beezy. Most of what I use YouTube for now is to just post some edited shorts and all that sort of stuff as well. So you can see my shorts and all my funny moments from the stream. You can catch me there every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. No, what am I talking about? You can catch me there every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from around 6 to 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight, non-daylight standard time. You know what I mean. But yeah, I don't know when the next one will be in the future, but subscribe and all that good stuff, and like and comment. I'll try my best to get around to all the comments and that sort of thing. And thanks very much for watching. Have a great day, and I'm really bad at making outros, unless they're scripted. But yeah, I don't know when the next video will be. It most likely will be a retrospective of the version differences between one of my favorite video game series of all time, Shaq Fu. Yes, I'm doing Shaq Fu. But until then, enjoy whatever you're doing. Have a great evening, afternoon, day, wherever you are in this lovely world, and stay classy as fuck. Catch you next time.
Sup guys, Beezy here. Just thought I'd go a little unscripted here. I neglected to mention the creator of the brilliant International Zodiac Job System English patch. FF Griever. You may know him from some of his work in the PS2 hacking and modding scene, such as the ESR backup patching system, and a couple of other things. I'll put a link in the description of the last video if you'd like to go and check out the English patch before the Zodiac Age comes out. And I'll do the same for the creator of this patch in this video, so enjoy. Sup guys, Beezy here. In my last video, I took a look at Final Fantasy XII International Zodiac Job System, and its enhancements alongside its original game. And for this one, I thought I might take a look at another game that wasn't released in the rest of the world until 2014. Yes, it's another Final Fantasy game. Most of these changes will be common knowledge now, since the HD remaster has been out for a while, but whatever. Here, I'll be taking a look at Final Fantasy X-2, International plus Last Mission. Final Fantasy X-2 was released March 13th, 2003 in Japan, November 18th in North America, February 19th in Australia, and February the 20th in Europe. It is the direct sequel to 2001's Final Fantasy X. It was the very first game in the mainline Final Fantasy franchise to be a direct sequel until Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings, The After Years, 13-2, and Lightning's Return Final Fantasy XIII. This was also the first game in the series to only have 3 female protagonists as party members. When you first boot up this game and you see the really weird opening sequence with real emotion, maybe your first thought might be, ew, somebody got some fan service all over my Final Fantasy, but I implore you, look past that, please. Despite it seeming like a very girly Final Fantasy, it's definitely a great addition to the franchise as a whole. You assume the role of Yuna, 2 years after the fall of Sin, who embarks on a journey of self-discovery after finding a sphere of what appears to be Tidus, and leaving the island of Besaid to join brother, Riku, and buddy on the airship Celsius to become a sphere hunter. Rounding out the trio of protagonists is Pain, a mysterious and reserved warrior with a rather dark past. Under the banner of the Gullwings, the trio search for answers regarding the truth of Spira, and for Yuna, her search to find some clue as to what happened to Tidus. It was re-released in the Final Fantasy X, X-2 HD remaster, the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita in 2013, and released again for the PlayStation 4 in 2015 and on PC in 2016. This version has updated graphics, new features and changes. However, before this game was remastered in high definition, all of the new features and gameplay tweaks came from the Japanese-only release, Final Fantasy X-2 International plus Last Mission. Final Fantasy X-2 International plus Last Mission was released on the PlayStation 2 on February 9th, 2004. There are a few new additions to the core gameplay mechanics, new modes, and even an epilogue story in the form of a roguelike RPG. So, let's start off with what was changed in the main game. I'll be playing the English patch version of X-2 International plus Last Mission here, and not the HD remaster, to showcase the original Japanese release's changes from the original release. Despite the international version having almost no notable changes to the story or core battle mechanics, there were a few new additions in the way of new dress spheres and garment grids. The 2 dress spheres that were added were called Psychica and Omatsurishi, which are also called Psychic and Festivalist in the HD remaster respectively. Psychica's dress sphere dons the ladies in school uniforms and futuristic visors. They all hover above the ground in this form as well. Some of its notable attacks include Psycho Bomb, Telekinesis, Mazurai, and they all gain the Ida order abilities for fire, water, ice, lightning, and gravity damage respectively. Omatsurishi's dress sphere dons the ladies in different festival attire. Yuna in a light pink yukata, Riku in a light blue kimono top with light blue shorts, and Pain in a blue happy and blue shorts. You can obtain this dress sphere by talking to Brother for the first time on the Celsius. They have different weapons, such as Yuna using silver and red tamari, which are decorated balls, and she uses her sandals for special attacks. Riku uses cotton candy and a goldfish which changes colours for her special attacks. And Pain uses a giant fan and uses a chocobo mask for her special attacks. Also, the colours of their fireworks upon using normal attacks and changing in and out of this dress sphere differs. Yuna has pink fireworks, Riku's is green, and Pain's is indigo. Each attack and ability for each character is different, except for the 4 main abilities: Twinkler, which restores HP and cures status ailments, Spinner, which causes damage and inflicts confusion on an enemy, Popper, which damages an enemy, and Fountain, which damages all enemies. Yuna has a randomized special attack based on the landing of her sandals, resulting in differing levels of attack. In ascending order, it goes face up for the lowest spell, then face down, on its side, And finally, on the heel for the strongest attack. There are 6 sets of sandals in total. These include fire, water, ice, thunder, flare, and ultima. Flare and ultima differ slightly as the spells for the flare sandals are sleep, berserk, break, and flare. And ultima sandals have silence, blind, death, and ultima. Her auto abilities include pointless proof, piercing magic, silence proof, SOS regen, and SOS wall. Riku's attacks utilize 3 element imbued goldfish which chain damage with each goldfish attack. These elements include fire, water, ice, lightning, gravity, and holy on one enemy. Her auto abilities are mostly the same as Yuna's, though she gains slow proof and stop proof instead of piercing magic and silence proof. Pain's special attacks uses her masks to inflict damage and imbue status effects. These include blind, silence, sleep, poison, stop, and petrification. Instead of gaining pointless proof, her auto abilities use most of Riku's with the addition of SOS haste. Also, another little addition which I thought was a really nice touch was the avatar of each of the characters actually change depending on the dress sphere they have equipped. That's pretty cool. 4 new garment grids were added in this version. They are only obtainable from completing certain tasks from the Fiend Arena, which I'll be speaking about later. Also, each garment grid has now additional abilities for captured monsters. Intrepid, which can be obtained by beating the Standard Cup 3 times, has pointless proof as its passive ability, AP times 3 as its gate ability, and its creature abilities include Finger Snap, and has strength, defense, magic, and magic defense plus 10. Its background is the Udisa Tower. Abominable, which can be obtained by beating the Grand Cup hard difficulty, has Itchy Proof as its passive ability, Status Proof abilities, and Ribbon as its gate abilities. And its creature abilities include Ribbon, and has Strength, Defense, Magic, Magic Defense plus 20. Its background is the monster Torich. Peerless, which can be obtained by beating the Aeon Cup 3 times, has no passive ability, and has Always Critical, Magic Booster, Auto Haste, and Break Damage Limit as its gate abilities, and its creature ability is Always Critical. Its background is Vegnagun. And finally, Last Resort, which can be obtained by completing Almighty Shinra's Tale and releasing him, has no passive ability, has MP cost 0, Always Critical, Magic Boost, Break Damage Limit, and Hidden Hero Drink as its gate abilities, and its creature ability is Hidden Hero Drink. Its background is Almighty Shinra. Now, half of that probably didn't make any sense to any of you out there who haven't played this version before. So let's dive into the Creature Creator and Fiend Arena. Unlocked from the first time you talk to Shinra on the Celsius, you can unlock a brand new mode and battle system. Creature Creator allows you to capture and keep a variety of monsters. When you first play through this mode, Shinra gives you some traps and tells you to set them down at certain locations. There are 4 different types of traps, and what creature you can get depends on where you place the trap, what trap you use, and where you are in the story. Sometimes you can get some damn good monsters. Other times you get bupkis. Your very first monster you receive is, Brother. He's quite useless as a fighter, but it allows you to test the battle mechanics of using monsters. In battle, you can change the tactics of the monsters in your party by pressing either the L3 or R3 buttons to raise or lower their tenacity accordingly. Each monster can be equipped with a garment grid, dress sphere, and 2 accessories. They can be leveled up and acquire abilities just like the girls. Each monster has a story you can unlock by leveling them up, and at the conclusion of their story, you can release them for their ending sequence and other goodies, such as traps, new arena cups, and even new characters. The Fiend Arena is a mode where you can test your characters or monsters' mettle in a tournament-style battle royale. 10 different unlockable cups are available to test your mettle of up to 8 or 16 bracket tournaments. Each battle pits you against different teams of monsters. Each completion in each cup nets you rare accessories, experience, and money, with multiple completions allowing the next tier to be unlocked. You can't receive a game over here, and you can try as many times as you like. Standard Cup is available from the get-go. Completing this once nets you the Psychic Dress Sphere, and besting it 3 times unlocks the Hard variant and the Intrepid Garment Grid. Completing Standard Cup Hard once nets you the Grand Cup. Grand Cup is the first 16 bracket tournament you face. Beating this once nets you a Festivalist Dress Sphere, and beating it 3 times unlocks Grand Cup Hard. Grand Cup Hard is difficult, but beating it for the first time gives you access to the Chocobo Cup, in which you have to use a Chocobo in your party to proceed. You have to wait until Chapter 5 in the story to unlock the Youth League Cup on the 6th attempt, as you have to obtain stronger monsters to pass the Gatekeeper enemies in the 4th attempt onwards, such as the Mega Tonberry and the Shady Duo, which consists of a Black Elemental and a Mushroom Cloud. Beating it for a 4th time unlocks the Cactuar Cup, which includes a Cactuar in each round and the Jumbo Cactuar. The Youth League Cup is unlocked after defeating the Grand Cup Hard 6 times. This is one of the few cups that pits you against some of the supporting and main characters of 10 and 10-2, including Lucille, Nuge, Gipple, Elma, Lulu, Kimari, Garrick, and Brother and Buddy as a duo. Characters such as Nuge, Barreleye, and Gipple may team up here. Your reward for completing this cup? The coveted Mascot Dress Sphere. The Aeon Cup unlocks when you have transformed 8 specific creatures into Aeons. Beating this cup 3 times gives you the Peerless Garment Grid. Now, the second to last cup here is an exception. The Fiend Portal becomes available after obtaining and releasing specific monsters, with Ultima Weapon being the last monster that's required. This tournament is a deathmatch each time, causing the Celsius to explode and cause a game over should the party lose to even one of the teams. The party doesn't restore their HP and MP after each battle, so healing and buffing definitely becomes a priority here. Completing this cup changes it to the Fiend World Cup. At the end of the cup, you're given a choice to recruit Ultima Weapon again, or Omega Weapon. Should you choose Omega Weapon and release it, this causes the creation of one of the strongest optional bosses in this version, Almighty Shinra. After unlocking Almighty Shinra, the Fiend World Cup becomes the Almighty Shinra Cup, with him being the final opponent. Take him down, and you'll have the opportunity to recruit him. Finally, the Farplane Cup is unlocked after beating every other cup, not including the Almighty Shinra Cup. Your opponents here include some of the strongest bosses and super bosses of this game, such as Elder Drake, Azidahaka, Paragon, Tremor, Major Numerous, and sometimes you can even face Auron, Seymour, and the man Yuna has been searching for this whole time, Tidus himself. Auron and Seymour are re-recruitable if you dismiss them, but Tidus can never be recruited again. Strange that. Finally, the Battle Simulator allows you to battle any of the various monsters and bosses you've encountered in each of the cups. Fighting in the Battle Simulator doesn't result in a game over, so it's useful to farm certain accessories such as the Iron Duke from Major Numerous, or Dark Matters from Paragon. Whew, now that I've finally got that out of the way, there's one last addition to explain, and it's quite different to the main game. Last Mission is a roguelike dungeon crawler which serves as the epilogue from the end of 10-2. 3 months after defeating Vegnagun and Shuyin, the Gullwings have gone their separate ways, each of them working on different things in their own lives. In this version, some of the storyline differs depending on which ending you achieve in a save you choose. In the HD remaster, you'll always have the best ending storyline of Last Mission. They all receive a message to investigate Yarunoki Tower, which is called Udasid Tower in the HD remaster. You start off in the outpost before the tower, where you can save, change your active party member. You can only use one character here. Once you start ascending the tower, the gameplay becomes quite different to what 10-2 had. You move around on a grid, moving from room to room, killing fiends, picking up items and guild, using spells and folios, but you only get one move per turn. Whether it's moving one square or attacking, using an item, you get one move, and all of the fiends move. Each level is randomly generated. The layouts, items, and fiends all change from level to level. Your ultimate goal here is to survive the onslaught of fiends and ascend to the next level via an elevator. Hindering your advance here are items that cause damage or ailments, folios that cause a myriad of effects, traps that range from moving you to another room on the floor or even sending you to the floor below, and even condition-based floors, in which the elevator is locked until a certain condition is completed. There's 80 floors here to navigate, with every 5 floors allowing you to save, every 10 instigating a cutscene, and every 20 has a boss battle. So, what's different battle-wise? Well, each character starts out with their respective starter dress spheres, with Yuna donning the Gunner sphere, Riku with the Thief, and Pain rocking the Warrior sphere. These dress spheres differ from the main game, as not only do they allow them to use set abilities, they also act as armor, having a set HP which increases as the level of that dress sphere increases. Up to 5 dress spheres can be equipped at any time, with the other 4 acting as support dress spheres. These support dress spheres add certain auto abilities to your character, making the climb up Eudice Tower hopefully much easier. Raising the level of each dress sphere requires fusing the same kind of dress spheres together to create higher level dress spheres. HP is subtracted from the main dress sphere equipped, and support dress spheres will be equipped if the main one breaks, meaning its HP is reduced to 0. If you run out of dress spheres, you'll be demoted to Freelancer. You're pretty weak in this form, and if you die here, you'll have to climb up the tower again, all the way from the bottom. You can equip accessories either found inside the tower, or the ones created from the passive abilities of your support dress spheres. You can accrue ability points a la 10-2, which creates an accessory based on that auto ability. You can only equip 2 at a time. Your inventory is quite limited here, with only 20 slots for items, dress spheres, folios, and accessories. So, as you ascend the tower, you'll learn more about what made the Gullwings split up, what each of them is doing now, and the doubts they never voiced during the main game. There really isn't much to this epilogue, but it's quite interesting to see what happened after the end of 10-2, and the gameplay changes feel fresh and different. Good luck trying to get to the top of the Eudice Tower, because RNG is a bitch! So, that's pretty much it for 10-2 International plus last mission. Most of, if not all of these features made it to the HD remaster, so maybe I might do a video on 10 International, which the US didn't get to play until the HD remaster was released. Who knows, I might do a shitty gameplay video, but I'm unsure at this point. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to P. Birdman, the creator of this wonderful patch. I'll throw a link in the description below if you're interested to check out the patch for yourself. So, standard protocol here, guys. Like if you like this video, give me some feedback. I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys to make my future content much better. And last, but definitely not least, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Peace!
Final Fantasy X and X-2 marked a huge shift in how the FF series would continue in the years to come, continuing the cinematic feel and deep, complex, character-driven stories that would precede it from Final Fantasy IV onwards. Now, this video is just going to be a short one. Are you kidding me? Covering all of the version differences that Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD brings to the table, and will serve as a companion video for my recent level up videos for X and X-2. Sup guys, Beezer here, and this time on Level Up I'll be taking a brief look at Final Fantasy X, X-2 HD Remaster, and some of the changes that it brought to the table. Also, this may turn into a bit of a criticism video, so you've been warned. Released initially on December 26, 2013 in Japan, and on March 18, 2014 in North America, March 20th in Australia, and March 21st in Europe on the PlayStation 3, Final Fantasy X 10-2 HD Remaster graced our consoles and enabled even more people to experience this absolute masterpiece. This was also released on the PlayStation Vita. Rest in peace. On the very same days in each region, so you could take the experience with you wherever you wanted. It even had a cloud-based cross-save system via PSN to enable you to take your progress on the go, in the same vein as the cross-firing system that was in the Metal Gear Solid HD collection, used to transfer save data between the PlayStation 3 and Vita respectively. This was also extended to the PlayStation 4 version when that released as well. The game was also released on PlayStation 4 in May of 2015, on PC in 2016, and even finally came to the Switch and Xbox platforms in April 2019. And finally, to the Microsoft Store in 2021, making it one of the most widely accessible titles in the Final Fantasy catalog at the time until the re-releases of Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy XII, and the Pixel Remaster series released later on. Most of the enhancements in the Final Fantasy X 10-2 HD Remaster were already present in both of the international versions of both games, of which I've already made videos on, which you can now check out here. So I'll only be covering the HD enhancements of both Final Fantasy X and X-2 here. So sit back, grab your favourite beverage, and stay classy as I dive into the HD remasters of Final Fantasy X and X-2. I'll be mostly covering the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and the PC versions, and lightly touching upon the other releases as the bulk of the changes were present in those versions. But first, we gotta talk about who was responsible for the Final Fantasy X 10-2 HD Remaster. Final Fantasy X 10-2 HD Remaster's development was mostly handled by a studio named Virtuos. Virtuos had made some ports and full games in the past, including The Price is Right, a PSN exclusive title. Other than that, before working on Final Fantasy X 10-2 HD, they made the licensed Monster Jam: Path of Destruction for the 7th generation of consoles, including the PlayStation 3, 360, Wii, and even the DS and PSP. They're also known for working on such games as NBA 2013, XCOM Enemy Unknown for iOS, Horizon Zero Dawn for PC, Nier Automata for the Switch, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Demon's Souls. So they have a pretty decent track record. Currently, they're assisting with the development of the new Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater. That one I'm 100% keen for. Please don't this up, Virtuos and Konami. They were the team responsible for developing the PS3 and Vita versions of Final Fantasy X 10-2 HD Remaster, and they also had a hand in re-releasing all of the subsequent releases of the game as well, with support from Square Enix. They even worked on Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age, which you can watch my video on that remaster here. Now let's get into some of the updates that they brought to Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X HD Remaster is a fully HD remastering of the original Final Fantasy X International as its basis, so everything I've covered in that video is included in this release. This would mark the first time that North American players could now attempt to take on the harder versions of Omega Weapon, the Dark Aeons, and Penance, amongst the rest of its additions. All of the game's textures had been remastered and updated, such as a new look for the UI, a whole new typeface, updated character models, updated NPC models, and enemy models were all fully upscaled and remastered. However, although this is a lovely, fully accessible way to play Final Fantasy X, it does have some glaring issues.
Beg your pardon, but that's not something a maester should say.
Shut up, Waka! This needs to be said. The NPCs in the PS3 version just don't look as good as they should, which you could attribute that to them just being NPCs. They don't need a full remaster. Well, unfortunately, the HD remaster brought in a very odd bug where some NPCs would keep their mouths open during cutscenes, leading to some hilarious results. Something else to note here is that the original 4x3 FMV cutscenes were used for the remaster, just cropped to 16:9 here and blown up to fit the 1080p sizing, which was also changed in the PC version, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So the cutscenes don't look as good as they originally did, and introduce a lot of artifacting due to the resizing from its 512x416 resolution, direct from the PlayStation 2 version. Now, I'm not saying they still don't look good today. In fact, I think they're one of the things that have aged really well from Final Fantasy X. But it's a minor gripe that I have with the remaster. But the gripes, they don't stop coming. And they don't stop coming. The character models in Final Fantasy X HD don't look as good in my opinion. And the smoothing of the faces makes the characters lose a lot of facial expression between the PS2 and the HD remaster versions that I believe take a lot away from the overall emotion of the characters. Here's a side-by-side example from the PlayStation 2 version of Yuna's face in the scene just before the Yunalesca battle, and the original PS3 version for comparison. And as a little extra, Titus's face in the cutscene where he meets Auron again in Luca. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments.
I loved him. So I will live with my sorrow. I will live my own life. I will defeat sorrow in his place. I will stand my ground and be strong. I don't know when it will be, but someday I will conquer it. And I will do it without false hope.
No, that's ridiculous! No way! I don't believe you!
But it is the truth. You'll see for yourself. Come with me.
If I say no?
Every story must have an ending.
I don't care about your stories!
I see. Sorry you feel that way. Fine then. Come or don't come, it's your decision.
What am I supposed to say? You tell me it's my decision. But I don't have a choice, do I? You're the only one who can tell me what's going on anyways. I have to go with you. I have to.
Irritating. I know. Or are you afraid?
He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy.
Personally, I'm not a fan with what Virtuos did for the faces of the characters here. The Final Fantasy X PC modding scene has released a bunch of mods including porting in the original faces for some of the playable characters. Including the mods from Pulse Arena and UniCB, you can check out their work and others like Eparade and Black Drugo's work on the links in the description below. The soundtrack in Final Fantasy X was also rearranged, with the PlayStation 4 version adding the ability to change OSTs between the original and rearranged versions, and this stayed in all subsequent releases afterward as well. Which do you prefer? I personally prefer the remastered version of some tracks, including Spira Unplugged. There's one minor change in the final battle with Braska's final Aeon. The track used is now the full-length version of Otherworld, not the different version that plays in the PS2 version. some of the other changes that are in the remaster is that a new main menu cursor has been added, replacing the early thousands looking edgy cursor. I'm the best. There's a new neat looking loading icon with a Zanuck and Abe's emblem, with spear and text saying loading in the bottom right. This is a very nice touch. Trophy support was added in for the first time in the game's history in the PS3 version, and this carried over into the Steam achievements and Xbox achievements in their subsequent releases. Compared to the PS2 version, Yuna, Riku and Lulu no longer say any lines during Tidus's Blitz Ace Overdrive. Just a quick little editor's note here. When I tried this on the PS3 version, Riku would say "hi" in Japanese, so I don't know if it was the version I was playing on, but I could not replicate this. Some voice lines no longer play in the HD version, such as Yuna's lines in Luca.
Let's ask around.
Some enemy sound effects just straight up don't play, or are now taken direct from the Japanese version. And that covers most of the PlayStation 3 version's additions. Let's cover some stuff that the PS4 and Vita versions added in. In the Vita version, there was a major quality of life upgrade in the form of quick recovery. This just automatically uses the minimal amount of healing items or white magic to heal your party up to full. This can be accessed by swiping your finger on the Vita's touchscreen in any direction. This unfortunately did not make it into the PC or PS4 versions. Another thing about the Vita release is that the full version of 10HD was on the card, but the full 10.2 HD remaster was included as a download code. In the PlayStation 4 version, the graphics are further enhanced and serves as the basis for the HD remaster's re-releases going forward. The NPCs now look way better than the PS3 version, and now have better quality hands. Now this is better. The loading times were enhanced compared to the PS3's loading times. Valefor's Summon and Energy Blast Overdrive sound effects were also oddly removed. And some of Anima's sounds were played twice if the summoning animation was set to short. A 1.01 version was pushed out after release, fixing some issues like music restarting after a battle, and fixing some RNG issues that were in the initial release. Now, time for some of the biggest differences in the PC version before I lightly touch upon the later Xbox and Switch releases. The PC version gave players access to both the English and Japanese dubs, although this is oddly bound to language settings. This can be bypassed by using the Untitled X mod from Caldayan. Caldayan? I don't know how to pronounce that. And even adds in a bunch of quality of life additions that I think are essential. I'll leave a link to it in the description if you're wanting to try it out for yourself. There's also a bunch of quality of life time-saving game booster features they added in as well, including Supercharge mode, which keeps all of your characters and Aeon's HP, MP and overdrive gauges at max at all times. The ability to increase or turn off enemy encounters. An auto battle function to make grinding a lot faster. An ability to hide the HUD for a cleaner overall look. Some special editions that cannot be undone, including getting 99 of all consumable items, unlocking every skill for every character in Aeon, and giving you max skill, which caps out at 999,999,999. And one of my favourite features returns from the Final Fantasy XII remaster. Turbo Mode! This allows you to speed up movement and battles in the game to a 2 or 4 times multiplier. This also ensures cutscenes and overdrives don't get sped up as well to make grinding a whole hell of a lot faster. There's one glitch that's exclusive to the PC port that doesn't exist in any other version to date. Kimahri's ultimate weapon, the Spirit Lance, has a very unique visual glitch, where its feathers and prongs on the spear tip are not rendered at all when it's viewed from its left side. Weird that. Minor quality of life additions include adjustable resolution and graphics settings, remappable keyboard and controller buttons, and an auto-save function. all of the original PlayStation button prompts were changed to reflect the Xbox button prompts, but this can also be changed with the Untitled X mod as well. And now, onto the Switch and Xbox One changes, of which there aren't that many. One weird change is that the naming scheme of the celestial weapons, sigils, and crests now use the Japanese naming instead of the PlayStation naming. The quality of life boosters in the PC version were not ported over, except for the quick recovery feature, which was reintroduced into the Switch version. The Switch version also released in most regions with just Final Fantasy X HD Remaster on the card, similar to the PS Vita release. Another quality of life feature in these versions is that the sphere grid and customization tutorials could be skipped. And something I briefly touched upon in my Final Fantasy X International video is the inclusion of the short film Eternal Calm, showing the reasoning why Yuna begins her journey in Final Fantasy X-2. This was fully upscaled and remastered. I've already covered it, so you kind of already know what it's all about. Now with all that out of the way, let's take a dive into Final Fantasy X-2 HD and see what was changed. Not much was updated in comparison to Final Fantasy X HD, but some things were included, so let's dive in. There's not many differences for the X-2 HD remaster here, but this marks the first time in the game's history that allowed Western players to enjoy the Creature Creator, the Colosseum, and Last Mission, fully playable and with a full English voiceover. This also allowed Western players to enjoy the 2 new dress spheres, Festivalist and Psychic, and the 4 new garment grids as well. There's not really much else to say about the HD remaster for X-2. All the character models and textures have been upscaled, the UI has gotten a slight overhaul in comparison to X's UI. The FMVs are still cropped and not properly upscaled. One major difference in the PS3 HD remaster is that the original PS2 version of International Plus Last Mission allowed you to reuse a completed save file to obtain the perfect ending. Now, however, the HD remaster simply just assumes you had 100% save from the get-go, enabling you to get the hidden ending much more easily in comparison. The PS4 release had the same updates as X HD, so not much change between those releases. The PC version mostly remains the same, with everything carrying over from X's release, including the changeable graphics settings, autosave, remappable buttons, and the boosters present in Final Fantasy X. Only slight difference is, Supercharge only heals your HP and MP by 20% every second, rather than keeping them at full in 10. Also, auto battle is slightly changed here, now only using whatever the first ability is that each of the party members have equipped. The only difference with the Switch version is that in some regions in Asia, both X and X-2 were on the same card, whereas in the rest of the world, only Final Fantasy X HD Remaster was stored on the card. And now, the elephant in the room. I don't want to cover this part, but for the sake of fully covering the HD remasters, I need to talk about Final Fantasy X Will. On to the most original part of Final Fantasy X X-2 HD Remaster. Square Enix decided to add in a little audio drama called Final Fantasy X Will in a separate credits section. And frankly, one of the worst things to be added in my honest opinion, other than some of the HD textures. I like the way that Final Fantasy X and X-2 ended. Final Fantasy X-2's ending was just a better way to ensure Tidus and Yuna got their happily ever after ending. Look, I'm not going to deep dive too hard into this audio drama too much, but Will comes off the back of the novella sequel Final Fantasy X 2.5, Ayan no Daisho, which translated means The Price of Eternity, which chronicles what happens to both Yuna and Tidus just after the events of X-2. Spoiler warning, all you really need to know is Tidus and Yuna learn more about the ancient spirit past by getting whisked away on a ship. Tidus decides in his infinite wisdom to kick a bomb because he thinks it's a blitzball and he just dies. Yuna gets help from a god to bring Tidus back and seal her memories of his death. yeah, it wasn't received well by fans. It was a Japan-only novella, and it was released on the very same day that the remaster launched in Japan. Look, I have not read it, and I choose not to personally, but fan translations exist online if this does pique your curiosity. Anywho, Will then launches off from when Iron no Daisho ends, with a whole bunch of new characters, and Yuna and Titus's relationship is on the rocks, and Titus is way weaker than before, the Farplane Fireflies become more unstable, more illusions keep appearing, Oren had a secret daughter.
Oren's daughter?
Mayor?
Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Sin just comes back?
I will defeat Sin. I must defeat Sin.
Yeah, I'm not doing a particularly good job in explaining this one, but with the lack of proper localization to English of the novella and just how lost you feel after listening to Will, look, hard pass. I understand Kazushige Nojima and Yoshinori Kitase wanted to give a look into life after Final Fantasy X too, and sometimes the dream isn't what it's cracked up to be, and things in life don't always pan out how we want them to, but let me live my delusions! Look, I've only listened to it probably about 3 times in my entire life. Once to check it out, once more to try and piece together what the actual I just heard, and one more for this video. Kinda wish I didn't. But anyway, it's there if you like that sort of thing. But look, I'll give this one a hard pass. Well, that's mostly everything the Final Fantasy X-2 HD Remaster has to offer. I feel like this is a pretty good bookend to the Final Fantasy series I started over 6 years ago. Starting off with International Zodiac Job System, I've also covered 10-2 International, plus Last Mission, and look, I'll be definitely making some new videos in the new year as well. Maybe I'll cover some of the re-releases of Final Fantasy, I don't know, we'll see. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and comment below what was your favourite memory of Final Fantasy X and X-2. Stay classy as everybody, and enjoy your Christmas holidays. Busy out! So, Sid Grack? What? Jesus Christ. There's one minor change in the final battle. A 1.01 version was pushed out after release. Fishing issues.